Nanci Shipman lost her son in the summer of 2016. Now, she has a nonprofit organization to help those who are battling opioid abuse. I sit down exclusively, Nanci, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Nanci Shipman, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin, for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Obviously, you're known around Charleston and the state of South Carolina for Wake Up Carolina, which is a community-based movement born out of the family's heartbreaking loss of your son, Creighton, in the summer of 2016.
Right, we lost Creighton 3.5 years ago, it'll be 4 years ago this July.
What is the biggest difference between 2016 and right now when you think of your son?
It's amazing. Like in 2016, the awareness in the area, I feel like, or at least on my part, what the awareness was minimal. I didn't know that there was a big undercurrent of opioids in the area, which leads to heroin. And now here we are, approaching 2020,
Yeah.
and the awareness is great, and the education and the need for hope that we do recovery, families recovery, and that there are a lot of resources out there.
And I know, obviously, your openness to ignite a cause and shed a bright light on the largest crisis of opioid misuse locally and nationally. What is the state of opioids right now in your mind?
So where we are with opioids right now is, in the beginning we wanted to start a conversation so that people had an idea of what was going on, how prescriptions can help lead to a physical dependence or turning a light on per se. With substance misuse. So that was starting the conversation. Here we are now to where we have all the stakeholders in the community kind of on board with the medical community, the community partnerships with law enforcement, first responders, elected officials, educators. So our conversation is going, but now what we're beginning to see is that we were so concerned about prescriptions in the beginning, which prescriptions are still important to be aware of, the education piece of it. But what we're seeing now is overdose deaths from every other type of drug because fentanyl is in it. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid and it is a game changer, and it can kill you the first time.
Wow.
So that's where we are right now. Like, that's a big part of what we're dealing with is people that are like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. I don't do heroin. I don't do opioids. I only do X, Y, and Z. Well, unfortunately, fentanyl is now in every drug out there.
Between 2016 and right now, what have been the opioid deaths here in Charleston?
Charleston County was ranked #1 last year in the state for overdose deaths. Currently, we're in the rank of 2nd. Greenville is above us. And I think that why we have dropped down is because we have really worked hard with our resources and access to treatment. We're really working hard. Not only access to treatment, but Narcan, which is the overdose reversal drug.
What is the access to treatment right now?
Right now, access to treatment is pretty good. And I say that because everyone, thanks to whether we talk about the ACT task force, it's the Addiction Crisis Task Force in the area, or the opioid emergency response team the governor's put together.
Right.
When I talk about all the stakeholders, it's a technical term for every person that builds a community. You have all these conversations going on to talk about where can we get treatment? How do we get treatment? Are you not able to get there? Well, then let's put this community partner together to help you get to where you need to go. So access to treatment is much better than it ever has been, but that doesn't mean we don't have a lot of work to continue to do.
What work do you have to do now?
So what we're doing right now, our nonprofit, was formed out of the loss of my son, but what we wanted to do is be able to see what's being done in the community, where the need is in the community, and figure out what we can do to bridge people together as well as fill the gaps. So what we're currently doing right now is we've been providing young adult all recovery meetings, and that's been almost 1.5 years. We're also getting ready to roll out family meetings because this is a family disease that we deal with. Just like for me personally, although my son's no longer here, my children and I still have to work on our own recovery. So for family members that say, well, my wife has no interest in this. Well, that's fine if she's not interested, but you need support and you need strength. So that's why the family component, the family meeting is extremely important. The other aspect that we're rolling out is a grief group.
Mm.
From my experience, I've learned that when you have a loved one that's lost from an overdose, it's really hard when you're in a group that doesn't have that shared experience. So there are overdose grief groups in the nation, but we don't have any in this area. So that's another aspect we're building, and we just secured space this month. So we'll actually have space to be able to hold office hours, to have all of our meetings in one location rather than depending upon the town and the city to help us find shared space.
Shared space. You talk about recovery. How is your recovery going right now after after the death of your son?
Right? It's a step at a time. It's a nonstop walk. To be completely honest, this past holiday season was probably the hardest that my family and I have ever had, and that's something that I'm grateful to a mother a couple years ago that shared with me. I'll never forget. It was a couple months after losing Creighton, and I saw her, and I looked at her and I said, "Please tell me it gets easier." And she said, "Do you want me to be honest?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "I just finished up my 3rd year." And she's like, "That was the hardest." So I think if someone wouldn't have told me that, I would have been really concerned. But with that being said, I think it's important to own our truth. So even though I say every day is tough, every step is tough, we have joy, we have happiness, we continue to use the resources that we have and the tools that we have to continue to help us. It's important to feel the feelings, the good, the bad, the tough, and be honest about it. And a lot of that is not comfortable. That's not comfortable for us to feel it on our own, but also for our friends and other people that care about us and love us to sit in that space. But that's kind of the beauty of love. Love's unconditional. So we're working on it a day at a time, and we just keep taking the next step in front of the other.
You talk about those tools. What more tools do you need to basically have this nonprofit go nationwide if you wanted to?
So we've had a lot of interest of people in other states, other parts of the country that wanted to say, "Hey, we want Wake Up, Nevada.
Yeah.
We would love to have Wake Up Manhattan."
Sure.
And so what I always encourage them is I'm like, look and see what your resources are in your own community. And for us, we're organic. We're trying to continue to figure out what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and build services that speak our community language.
Sure.
So to me, that's my goal, is that you can't help anybody else until you're doing what you're doing in your own community. And for us to just now have our space, which is so exciting, I'm like, that's going to change the dynamics. What we've been meeting needs within the community has been great, but having a space where people can come in, and that's going to present its own new set of parameters for us to navigate. So nationally, golly, I don't even know, but right now we're going to keep growing how we are. But that's so exciting to hear, for sure.
Exactly right. And I know, obviously, we talked about those programs that speak to the community. What are those programs that you want here?
Mm-hmm. That we want here, right? We work together. I say we because this is never about one individual or one organization. That's the thing that I truly believe in. This is a health crisis. So in order for it to be a health crisis, again, you have to have as many people involved to understand how they can help grow a better tomorrow. And passion. I'm passionate about this, but that's not sustainable. So for us to build sustainability and to continue to build something that's going to outlive the opioids, because really opioids is what pulled me into this. But what we're really talking about is all substances, because when we talk about substance misuse, that's been going on for decades and decades and decades. And unfortunately, the reality is it will continue to go on because there is a business market and the aspect of, you talk about cartels and things in that aspect, there is a business side to it. But for me, when we talk about tools and platforms, is many ways that we can work with others to build access for treatment, access for conversations and support. The biggest thing, and that's why space has been so important to us, is that, we're human beings, and the most important thing to us is connection. And so in order to have the space, to me, that's a huge tool, that it will be a safe space for families and individuals to help in their recovery. And I think that's really going to be a game changer. This is not going to be replacing anything. This is just an adjunct to all the other different recovery support organizations. But for so long, I felt like I was by myself, and what I've learned, with Creighton is that Creighton felt like he had us, but he felt very isolated. When we go back to being human beings and social beings, we need that common interaction, and the beauty of having interaction with shared experience,
Sure.
that brings a lot of relatability
Right.
and hope
Sure.
and that support piece to where, you go to your meetings, but you also want to go out and have a good time together with people that have that same goal, that same, life walk. So you're asking about all these tools and services. I'm excited to say we're going to be rolling those out, but I'm excited to see what else we're going to be offering, which is going to be really exciting.
And that leads me to my obvious next question. Where should the conversation about this go next?
That's a good question. I think that for anyone that's listening or interested, your conversations should start with the people in your house. When you go to your doctor's visit, that conversation starts with you, with your physician about, let's go over the medications I'm on. Let's talk about how I am. Let's talk about pain. And even if you're not on any medications and you don't have pain, you might want to have that dialogue with your physician as well to say, so if I break my femur and I come in and we have to have a protocol, what does that look like for you? And the reason I'm bringing that specific up is that when we expect other people to start conversations and make necessary changes, you're putting your future in other people's hands. But really, we have our first breath. We have our last breath. And so the importance in that is having that conversation with those you love, your neighbors, healthcare providers, and having that conversation anywhere you turn, because it should come out of the darkness, off the sofas, out of, being in your car quiet. And I brought up the femur piece because people are like, well, if you know what you know now, and if you could go back in time, which I never like when people say that, but I get it, because a lot of people look at our experience and they're like, okay, what can I take from you to do differently or for what I'm going to do? God has, I don't want to say a sense of humor, but God gives opportunity
Sure.
a lot of times wherever you turn. So we lost Creighton in July of 2016, and then September of 2016, my youngest son was an 8th grader at that time, and he was playing on his middle school football team, and he broke his femur on the football field. And we didn't know at the time it was, his femur, but he was screaming and crying, and it was pretty frightening. And what I learned from Creighton's experience is that he said his light was turned on when he had a medical emergency surgery, when he was prescribed medications back in 2011. Because for me, sitting here 3 months after burying my child and having my youngest screaming and crying in pain and turning white, saying, I don't want my light to turn on, you think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You sit there, you breathe, you pray, and then you lean on the support of the experts. And so what we did is we reached out to a family friend who also is an orthopedist that helped us with Creighton. He knows our background. And so he helped with the other physicians build a plan for Hollis to where opioids weren't needed. And it was Advil, Tylenol,
Right.
ice, all these old-fashioned things. And, I can't go back to 2011 when Creighton had his medical emergency surgery, had a Brody's abscess, crazy thing. He would have lost his leg or his life within 24 hours. It's a crazy thing. But what I can do is, okay, it's 2016. What do I know now? I know that opioids affects people differently. I lean on the experts in the community that I trust and support. We did something different. And the beauty of it is you break a femur, that's like the largest bone in the body. It's insane. But the difference is when he felt pain, he stopped. My personal opinion is a little pain is good. And for Hollis, he healed 2 months sooner than they had expected from a broken femur, from Advil and Tylenol and elevation and rest. And to me, that's where I talk about this conversation. We can't change where we were yesterday or where we were in the past, but what we can do is, okay, now I know different, now I can do different, or now I'm educated more in decisions, and I can share that with my neighbor, with my friend, with a classmate. So starting that conversation can be as little as just putting a drop in the bucket, but it's never without good things happening. I truly believe that, these ripples.
Yeah. I'm taking some Advil trying to get rid of this cold now.
It works.
Yeah, oh yeah. And you talk about obviously recovery. From 2016 to right now, how many people have you all been able to save?
I'd love to use the word save, but I know what you're saying, like support and help.
Sure.
I was just looking at some numbers, as simple as Narcan. I was telling you that we do Narcan. November of 2018, we were the first organization in the state to have a community Narcan training, and that's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's cool. So I was looking at the numbers for 2019. We partner with the Charleston Center, which is an amazing organization in the city, and we partner with Mount Pleasant Police Department First Step Program. So we do these Narcan trainings once a month, and just in that, we trained over 120 people. That's 120 people that are trained on signs to look for overdoses and then be equipped with Narcan. So in that's what we've trained. And then when we talk about our young adult, our recovery meetings, we have served over 115 people in the past year and a half. And that, when I say 115, we might say, gosh, that's not a lot in a year and a half. But to me, that's a significant number to think that we are serving teenagers and young adults. And I don't run those meetings. I have an amazing team that does their young adults in recovery. And that doesn't count how many young adults are coming back. That's 115. And, I talk about us being an organic organization. Something that has come to us in the past 4 months is that when we talk about access to treatment, we have helped over 15 people over the past 4 months have access to treatment. We don't offer treatment, but what we do is we help partner them with people that do have open beds, that have inpatient, that have outpatient. Right. And that's, from my understanding, that's one of the hardest things, that willingness of, I need treatment now, I need help right now. And that right now means right now. And that's what kind of opened up to us is when we get those phone calls that, thank goodness, we have built these community partners to where we can help get them to options for where they can go right now. So that's the thing that's interesting about this. Is I'd love to say we look just like this. This is what we've all been doing. But what we were doing in the very beginning is not at all what we realized the need was, and that's what grew into 2018, 2019. It'll be interesting to see this year. So, and for families, we've helped over 200 families since 2017, and that's a lot. And we feel really fortunate, and it always gets me emotional. We never take for granted the trust, and that's something because my experience was such a scary experience when I didn't know what I was dealing with. And I had 2 amazing people that I reached out to, scared to death, saying, help me, what does this look like, what am I doing? And you have to have that surrender of your own ego and feelings, and be open and transparent to say help. And so to me, when we have a phone call, when we have a Facebook message, when we have a text, that's something that we don't ever take for granted, that trust, because it takes a lot of someone to reach out. And so to me, that is one of the biggest privileges we have as an organization, is that trust piece.
I know that you really don't organize much of the meetings. You have your staff helping you out with that. And you've obviously helped over 200 families over the past 3-4 years. Which particular individual reminds you of your son?
See, now you're really going to make me emotional in a good way. I sure do wish things were different. But with you saying that, and no one's ever asked me that. But the beauty of it is that, thank goodness I know one day I'll see him again.
Yeah.
But this walk that I've had, and again, I had no idea as things continue to progress that a nonprofit was going to be born, and then the nonprofit was going to split, and we were going to grow into what we've grown into. Everyone I come in contact with that has this transparency and this hope for things to be better, I don't know what that looks like. A lot of people say, but we'll do it. They have this twinkle in their eyes. Doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman or a child, an older adult, a fireman in Columbia, or a pastor in Greenville. I can't tell you, I have these conversations with so many people, and they have a twinkle. And that twinkle is what my son had. And the way I look at that is that twinkle's like her spirit, and Creighton was like the happiest person ever. Old soul did meet a stranger. And these people that have that I've been open and honest with and have been open and honest with me, like, how do we build this? We don't know what this is. Well, what's being done? Those people keep coming in at the right times with that twinkle, with that open heart, with that unique experience and knowledge base that has really helped where we are. So I see that. I see these individuals all different with these twinkles per se, literally and figuratively, that I see my son. And then there is this young man, mid-20s, that he reminds me so much of my son. He is he's 1 year in recovery, and he's doing an amazing job with his recovery. Open, honest, helping others, huge support. Doesn't live here currently right now. He moved. He's doing great. But we have a special connection, and it's something that that I definitely recognize different aspects of my son and him as well. So it's interesting how life is, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Oh, you're absolutely right. Well, Nanci Shipman, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin, so much.
You're welcome anytime.